Hi everyone, I'm Robert Curtis. I'm the head instructor of the Distance Calculus program. In this video, I'm going to talk about some predictors of student types. So you're a student out there, you're looking at distance calculus, you're trying to determine whether or not distance calculus is right for you, and hopefully you've seen some of the other videos that address that question. In this video, I'm going to talk about what I've observed over the last 20 years with students who have certain attributes and whether or not they tend to succeed or they tend to struggle, or certain attributes that they may be worried about really don't matter at all. And hopefully this helps you make a decision of whether or not you think distance calculus might be right for you. So I'm going to do three categories up here. I'm going to do what I call a success category. And then I'm not going to say failing over here, but I'm going to say tougher, struggling. I'm going to use the word tougher. Is that students in this category can still succeed at distance calculus, but it's going to be a little bit tougher than they may think. And then over here I'm going to have a third one, which I'm going to call NBD, which is no big deal. Even though many students are worried about these kinds of things, it'll turn out that things I put in this category really don't matter. So I'll start with some age things. It turns out that students who are greater than 25 years old or less than 18 years old tend to be very successful in distance calculus. And the students who are in the standard age group for college, 18 to 22, tend to find distance calculus tougher. Now, why is that? Well, in the previous videos, I talk about the comparison between distance calculus and its structure with their traditional courses. And one may watch those videos and say, wow, distance calculus is so cool. Why doesn't everyone just do it that way? And I tend to think that as well, because I've been a participant in this grand experiment that we've run for 20 years. But I've also discovered that the prime college age group tends not to do very well in distance calculus. And it's because of a lot of things that I'm going to describe here. But the number one issue is that 18 to 22-year-olds tend not to have a lot of self-discipline. And so the traditional courses really marshal them through their courses, and lots of courses all at the same time. And it's actually better that they're not given a lot of freedom to, work on one class very intensively, and they're told they have to show up at particular times, and it's very regimented, and that's actually better for most 18 to 22-year-olds. Now, I may not be talking to you. You might be in that age group, and you might say, hey, I'm extremely self-disciplined. Excellent. Then distance calculus may be for you. But the majority of students in this age group tend to do better in a traditional course. The other aspect of tougher is when these students have what I call N classes, where they're taking 3 classes or 4 classes or 5 classes all at the same time. And distance calculus, since it is so asynchronous, there are no deadlines, what happens is that the other classes take precedence, and the student is sort of swimming around all semester, and they go take their philosophy quiz, and they go write their English paper, and they go take their economics quiz, and then all of a sudden distance calculus is kind of pushed to the back for the entire semester, and the student gets to the end of the semester and distance calculus hasn't gotten any attention whatsoever, and it's too bad. Distance calculus is not structured to try to keep a student going like those other traditional courses. We're just not structured that way. Over here, a measurement of success is if distance calculus is the only class you are taking. Distance calculus is an excellent single course so that you can totally focus on just one class, and that's why many students are able to take that single class, a single distance calculus class, and finish it in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks. It's a much better intensive type of course rather than being one of many courses that you may be taking. The problem is that these other courses simply have these hard fixed deadlines that they take precedence, and students just get derailed if they're trying to take distance calculus as part of a regular set of courses. The other aspect over here is if you are a successful aspect, which is often very not expected, is that if you are working full-time, that is an attribute of success in distance calculus. Why is that? Well, if you are working full-time, then usually you're not taking N classes. That's usually the case. But students who are working full-time tend to be older, and they tend to have a lot more self-discipline than the standard collegiate student crowd. And they're just by being older and having responsibilities in their life, they understand that while they're working full-time, they have to dedicate a certain amount of time to their full-time job. And then when they're taking the single course, they take it extremely seriously because it's kind of like their job. And they're practiced with that, and they have to go forward and finish this course that they've set out to do already. Working full-time usually in the traditional courses does not predict success. In fact, if you're working full-time, then generally maybe you're taking the class at night in a classroom, or you're taking it from online, but there's still deadlines involved, and then if that gets in conflict with your work and your family, that's the kind of problem that occurs in the traditional courses, but that's alleviated in our courses. We have many full-time working students who tend to work on the distance calculus course for a few weeks, and then when their job and their families sort of, have some things going on, they need to change their attention back to their job, their families, their home life, etc. Then they bow out of distance calculus for a few weeks, go deal with all of the things that may have come up, and then when time allows, they come back to distance calculus and return to doing work, pick up right where they left off, and keep working on the course, and maybe spend another week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Many full-time students do that kind of in and out, back and forth into the class until they finish it. And distance calculus is ready for that, and traditional classes really are not ready for that at all. One of the things that certainly goes into the tougher category is communication skills. One thing I've discovered over the last 20 years is that students who struggle with communication skills tend to have a tougher time in distance calculus because there is so much communication going on in the distance calculus course. In a traditional class, you can kind of, sit in the back of the class and never raise your hand and never participate and just turn in your homework and never ask questions. And that's the way a lot of people go through traditional courses. But in distance calculus, that doesn't work at all. So the students who want to kind of, blend into the background of a traditional class tend not to do very well in distance calculus. The students who have strong communication skills, usually those who have full-time jobs as well, where communication is usually part of your full-time job, that they do better in distance calculus because they have those communication skills. And it seems so simple, but they're able to write the instructor an email and say, I'm not going to be able to work on my course for a week, I'll see you next week, or I'm having problems with this, or they're able to communicate what they need from the instructors. And students who have poor communication skills, and I'll write up here, poor communication skills, tend to not be able to share that kind of information. And so I've watched some students who, in this category in distance calculus, since they're working on an assignment, they're turning in the homework over and over again multiple times, that they'll turn in an assignment, 10 times or 12 times or 15 times. and they never really ask the questions that they need to ask to be able to understand the material. They're just kind of, I'm supposed to turn it in again, okay. And they're not communicating what they're not understanding, and the instructors can try to pull it out of them to try to get that information, to try to get them past whatever problems they're having, but with poor communication skills, it tends to be a harder problem. Also, in the poor category, if you have poor study skills, and poor study skills kind of goes along the idea of discipline. If you find it difficult to engage your courses unless under threat of a deadline or an exam that is scheduled, then you're going to have difficulty in distance calculus because we don't have that kind of stuff. Now, we can turn on deadlines in your course account, but they're just suggested deadlines. They're suggestions you should get to assignment 20 by 2 weeks from now if you want to stay on track to finish the course with your goal end date. But they're not hard and fast deadlines, because the problem is if we had hard and fast deadlines, then we couldn't do mastery learning in that approach. So if you do have difficulty with study skills, then that tends to make you into the tougher category. Other successful attributes is if you are going to grad school, and a majority of our students in distance calculus are planning to go to grad school. They're coming to distance calculus to take a course, 1 or 2 or 3 calculus courses, and apply them into their graduate school application portfolio, either satisfying old requirements of classes they didn't take, or whatever, improving their application for graduate school. And these students tend to do very well in distance calculus, but they're also going to graduate school, so they tend to be very serious students. Another aspect of success is students in the military. And we're very proud to be able to serve students who are in the military, an active service military. And we've had students from around the world who are in points of the globe that you would not expect students to be studying calculus at the same time as performing their military services. We've had students in Antarctica and Tierra del Fuego, and we've had students on Navy ships around the world taking distance calculus, and it's because of the asynchronous course structure that allows them to do that. But we tend to find that the military students are extremely serious about their courses, and so they're very dedicated, as one would expect from military students, and they tend to succeed quite a lot over here. How about the no big deal area? Well, the first thing about the no big deal is computer skills. Many students ask me when they're considering taking a distance calculus course, they ask, well, what about my computer skills are not very good? I'm not very good at a computer. Do I need to be an expert at the computer to succeed in distance calculus? And the answer is no, you do not need to be an expert computer user at all. One of the benefits of taking distance calculus is that since you will be using the computer so much, your skills will improve naturally out of necessity, which is really a nice consolation in taking a distance calculus course. But you do not need to have great computer skills. If you can check your email, you're probably going to be okay. We have had students who have very poor computer skills to the point where checking email or installing a program on their computer is a challenge. Those students have to do a little bit more work to bring their skills up to sort of a minimal level, but we've been able to succeed with that with some extra effort on part of the instructors to get these students up to speed. We also have many students who may have learning disabilities, and they will ask me, well, I have a learning disability, I need to spend more time on exams, I need to spend more time on homework, and they're concerned about distance calculus in those aspects. And actually, those are no big deals in our courses, because we have such a flexible structure that we're able to accommodate students who need any sort of accommodations, either extra time on exams or extra time on their homework, which is really built into our course anyway. You basically get as much time as you need on your homework. And so any students who do have learning disabilities, we've never seen a situation where these students have problems that actually impede their success in the course, as long as they have some of the other success attributes that may predict success in this category. Now, I want to reiterate that if you do find yourself in this tougher area, I don't want to say that you should not sign up for distance calculus, but I just want to warn you that historically, students who are in this have a tougher time in distance calculus. Sometimes they end up succeeding in passing the course, but I think all the time students in this area will always say that the course was a lot harder than they thought it would be. And so I like to make sure to warn students who are planning to enroll, especially this one right here. If you're already taking 3 or 4 or 5 classes as part of a regular course load, I recommend you do not enroll in distance calculus necessarily, unless you're able to really chop some time out of your schedule and dedicate it to distance calculus. My recommendation is that you wait to take distance calculus when there's a break. Christmas break is a very common break time, and some systems have longer breaks. Certainly the summer is a popular time for students to take distance calculus, and that's because we get back to this single course idea that if you're taking distance calculus as a single course, you're more likely to succeed. So if you are a traditional student, then I would suggest you consider enrolling during the summer or during the winter or spring vacations, when you can not have to worry about 3 or 4 or 5 classes, but you can concentrate just on a single course for distance calculus. All right, well, if you have any questions about this topic or any other topics that I've discussed in the other videos, please write me an email and I'll do my best to answer them. I hope to see you in the class, and we'll talk to you later.